I take no position on Brexit per se, and that's very important. But I do have to point out consequences. The changing trading relationship with the EU has weighed on the level of potential supply. The impact on trade seems to be more in goods than services, which I don't think is particularly surprising. But it underlines why we must be alert to and welcome opportunities to rebuild relations while respecting that very important decision of the British people.
The Governor of the Bank of England warning that Brexit has undermined the UK's economy. Speaking at a Mansion House dinner in the City of London, Andrew Bailey says he takes no position on Brexit per se, but does have to point out consequences.
The changing trading relationship with the EU has weighed on the level of potential supply.
Well, that's an understatement to say the least. The OBR report the government is relying on in its recent budget says this. Weak growth in imports and exports over the medium term partly reflect the continuing impact of Brexit, which we expect to reduce the overall trade intensity of the UK economy by 15% in the long term. It's an absolutely staggering reduction in the potential economic performance of the country at a time when every penny counts. And whilst the government has been repeatedly saying this since the budget,
well, over the longer term, as I say, Kay, the OBR say that economic growth will be boosted by 1.4%. That's really positive.
The small print of the OBR report, which the government is quoting from, also says this. A 0.14% of GDP boost to potential output in 2029-30, which grows to 1.4% of GDP by 2073-74. So the growth the Chancellor is talking about is 50 years off. By then many of us will be dead. And even worse, the OBR the government is relying on has said that Brexit will reduce the UK's potential GDP by 4% in the long run by lowering the trade intensity of the economy. And the OBR has now confirmed that is still their assumption regarding the long-run impact of Brexit. Just think about that. A 4% reduction in the UK's potential GDP. It puts the 1.4% growth the Chancellor is quoting into context. And that's in 50 years' time. In the opinion of the Governor of the Bank of England, the damage done by Brexit should now be repaired.
We must be alert to and welcome opportunities to rebuild relations while respecting that very important decision of the British people.
But the government's position remains this.
And of course, our biggest trading partner is the European Union. We will not be reversing Brexit or re-entering the single market or customs union. But we must reset our relationship.
And now this is where we are.
Brexit was supposed to herald a new golden age of trade, allowing Britain to strike lucrative deals with countries that would not have been possible within the EU. But since Britain struck out alone, the world has become increasingly protectionist.
Until the government is willing to have an honest and open discussion about the negative impact of Brexit, which by almost every economic and financial measure has been disastrous for the UK, Britain's growth, productivity and living standards will continue to be weighed down by the structural handicap of Brexit. If the government is serious about growth, we need to be having frank and open discussions about this. Pretending it's not happening won't make it go away.